Welcome back to Shabby Shack Studio, friends, as we create a handmade journal on a budget. Okay, so I have used a whole lot of things that I currently already have in the studio, including this milk cotton lining paper that I got when I had some flowers delivered to me, which was a lovely gift. It is actually a waterproof paper that florists use, so it's actually quite sturdy. It was really easy to cut, but it's actually quite strong. I know probably using a binding tape of some description is probably a fantastic idea. If you have that on hand, use that. I just used what I had. Next, I picked up some scraps of cardboard that I had actually come off some of my sketchbooks that I'd used up, and I measured and cut the spine for the actual journal and even a spacer. I'm going to put all the sizings for you below if you would like to create one just like me. This is a true A5 size, which means that anything you create you're not going to need to trim if you create it on an A5 page. So I have used my binding or my padding compound that I have listed in the store, which is fantastic for notebooks. It's kind of a magic glue because it's stronger than the standard, but it's also flexible. So you can see I've simply just added the glue to the front of what is going to be the front of my journal. I've put my little spacer in there, and now I am adding the glue to what will be the spine. As I said, you can tell they're scraps, and you're not going to be able to tell that once we've covered it with fabric and made it gorgeous. So I couldn't see the point of spending money just for the sake of spending money. So again, this is another scrap I had. It's quite thick, so it was going to give my journal quite a robust finish. You, of course, could choose something more flexible if that suited you. Again, I just moved my little spine over that I created and added the back of my journal. Okay, removed that nice little spacer, pressed it all down, and I'm now just smoothing out any bubbles, making sure that it adheres nice and strongly to the cardboard there, and then I'm going to just put a heavy weight on it and let it to dry. Okay, now I've come back in with my craft knife. I'm just trimming off any edges. So I did purposely make it just a little bit bigger than I needed because I wanted to have a nice straight edge at the end. And as this board is quite strong, I didn't need a ruler. Okay, and then I simply chose one of my textiles. This is the silver dollar in eucalyptus, and I cut it with a little bit of excess size around the edges. And I decided that it needed something a little extra, so I created this iron-on transfer just with my own, imagination and intuitiveness. And I simply purchased some paper. Again, I'm going to add all the details for you below, and created this nice little iron-on transfer, pressed that onto my fabric, and then as you could see, I was pulling the thread through. I actually decided I wanted to add a little bit of hand embroidery to the front of my journal. Just because, I do a little bit of all those things in the studio. So it was another little element because this is my journal. I'm going to use this all year. It's going to be special to me. Okay, and then I simply laid it down. As you can see, there's a nice deep border of about 2 centimeters all the way around. And I glued so you can see that the milk paper is facing up. I put glue on the other side, pressed it all down, smoothed out the edges. Now you could use, some fancy binding, book binding supplies that you have on hand. I don't have any of those. I just picked up a letter opener I had just to make sure that their binding on the spine on my book is nice and deep. I wanted to make sure that the channels were nice in there. So you might need to fiddle with your fabric a little bit just to make sure that you've got a nice deep valley so you can open and shut your book well. Then I turned it over again with my padding compound, added a whole lot of adhesive to the cardboard itself, to the board, and also to the fabric. And then I gently folded those over and popped those into place, smoothed them down, and then I actually picked up some bulldog clips. So I don't actually show you that part, but I just used them to clip it shut, and then I just did it one step at a time. So once I'd folded it over, making sure I had lots and lots of glue on that, I just clipped the clips in place and then left it, put it aside and let it dry well before I then did the next border and the next border. Then I simply flipped it over. I printed one of my designs. So this is actually a wrapping paper design that is perfect for all year round. I printed it on some lovely heavyweight paper, and then I lined the inside of my journal. Then I picked up this lovely quote from Bonnie Christine, "There is room for you," and I decided to make a little pocket. Now, if you have seen my journals before, you know that I often have file pockets, and I have these lovely little details because I actually use mine constantly. Really is such a fantastic thing to have on your journal. I added this lovely stitch detail because once again, you know, that's part of what I do. And then I'm simply going to come in and use some double-sided tape and attach this on the inside of my journal. And it actually is so sweet. It looks like my little watercolor fox that I created is popping out of the top of the pocket. So this is something that you could use for anything. You could use it for receipts. I personally use it for my printing card at work, so I never lose it. I always have it in my journal. I just pop it down, as you can see, and I just put some markers on there so that when I put the double-sided tape on in a moment, I'm going to have a guide for how I'm going to put it back on. I'm not going to put that double-sided tape, which is actually really quite strong. If I put it down wrong and then lift it back up, I'm going to tear my journal lining, and I don't want to do that. So popping those little pencil lines on and those guides is a wonderful way to make your life a little bit easier. And then, of course, as long as you're gentle and with that pencil and you don't press down too much, you can easily erase them off when you put your pocket down, and it's like they were never there. But it does mean that you can play around and get your pocket perfect beforehand, and then you're not going to be unhappy trying to guess it or it's crooked or something like that, which would drive me nuts. So there you go, there's room for you. And thank you, Bonnie, for inspiring me. I love that quote. And the colors I just felt were a lovely fit for my journal. Okay, now I've come in with my Big Bite crocodile, and I've put a punch hole through there. I'm going to simply add a little brass eyelet, and I can just punch that closed with a hammer and this little tool that comes with them. So then I am going to add a split ring. So an album ring, the ones I had were just ended up being a little bit small, so I'm going to come back in and add them. But in the meantime, I decided to add this little jute string because I have started my journal set up. So don't worry if you're liking what you see and you'd like to see me watercolor and create these. We're going to do that together in the next video. So this is my journal set up for 2024. As you can see, there is a filet page there with a big pocket. There's my month at a glance. There's my inspirational quote. There's actually quite a few pages. There's a goal page, all of that. So if you would like to see more of those, don't forget to hit subscribe and follow me. And then we can actually create those together in the next video. So they're ready to go. And then it will be January and the year will truly begin. But as you can see, it's such a nice personal way to create a journal that is special to you. Instead of having to go out and buy one that everybody else has, you can add, like I did, your textiles, your own, special elements. I'm always creating something on this channel, including those little timber pegs and things you see above. Thank you for being here, and as it says, let the adventure begin.